guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, Homeowner Association evicted me and sold my house because of retroactive homeowner association dues. I will never be living in a neighborhood with a homeowner association ever again. Their bizarre rules and expectations are absolutely asinine. Plus, the fact that they can just foreclose on your home if you don't pay them their stupid dues is crazy. Well, that's what happened to me at least. My whole life I've suffered from anxiety and other health problems. I was simply cursed with having a shitty immune system. I rarely leave my house or interact with people outside of my family and closest friends, and I have a majority of my mail sent to me electronically. I don't like to be wasteful and have paper bills. I bought my house almost 20 years ago. It was a great investment at the time because the market was cheap, and it didn't take me long to have it paid off. When I purchased my house, it was the very beginning of the construction of the neighborhood and there was no homeowner association. About 6 years ago I developed multiple sclerosis, which is debilitating and incredibly difficult to manage, especially at first. I started having to take medications that suppressed my immune system and made me prone to being very sick. Eventually, my niece moved in with me to help care for me during my worst points. She would bring my mail in, which was always junk, and do my grocery shopping, and in return I paid her and gave her one of the rooms in the house. Things seemed normal until one day they weren't. I received a letter on our door first. It was taped on and said that we had been evicted and that the house was foreclosed upon by some investment company. My first thought was that this was just a mistake. How could this happen? I never knew anything was going on with my house, let alone it being sold from underneath me. On the second page of this foreclosure notice was some note from the neighborhood's homeowner association. They were saying that I owed them thousands of dollars over the last 5 years. Apparently, that's how long they had been established. I wasn't sure what to do. The number was crazy, some $19,000 is what they sold my house for, stating that's what it was worth and what I owed them. Again, my mind was spinning. I simply had a hard time with my MS and the shock of it all. How was I going to handle this? The notice said that I had 2 days to move out. 2 whole days to pack up my house that I've lived in for 20 years? I called my brother-in-law who was a retired lawyer and consulted with him about what I should do. Thankfully, Gerald, brother-in-law, said that he still had his license and that he would come out of retirement to help me. He gathered what evidence I could provide him while he set up an appeal with the investment company, the homeowner association and the court. He said that I have the right to fight them and appeal everything, and that is what we needed to do to fight them. After the 2 days were up, there were men there to move my belongings and send me packing. It was heart-wrenching, watching them put all of my stuff in a truck haphazardly, no respect for an old woman and her stuff. Gerald reassured me and said that this would happen though, as we simply didn't have the time to defend it before they evicted me. We were still hopeful that I would win the house back though. I didn't have a great defense, besides my medical history. And that's what Gerald was going to use to try and win this case. He said that the fact that I didn't receive any mail stating that there was a homeowner association to begin with, nor did they give me any warning emails or letters before doing the foreclosure, that we should have a decent chance. We were hopeful, but I wasn't going to assume anything. Years of always being sick and unfortunate made me a pessimist after all. While we were waiting on lawyers and a court date, I had family, friends and neighbors sending emails and letters to the homeowner association asking them to have sympathy for me. I wasn't too proud of it, but I felt like if it would help, then why not try? They explained how I was sick for years and never received the letters in the mail. That I should be exempt from their rules since I had lived there longer than the homeowner association itself. So many things were sent in and all of them were ignored. These people have no care or sympathy for anything other than their own lives and agendas. I was staying with family for the time being, but they didn't have much room and I felt terrible for encroaching upon their home and lives. Thankfully, they were lovely and thoughtful and were happy to help me. It took almost a month to get a court date. I was starting to worry that they may sell my home to someone else before I could hopefully win it back. There were so many things that were running through my head, and I was more stressed out than I had been in probably my entire life. The time finally came, and it was the moment I had been excited and stressed out about for over a month. The homeowner association was there and so was the lawyer for the investment company that the home was sold to. They went first, their points were all unfortunately valid. I honestly did feel badly for not realizing I had to pay homeowner association dues. I hadn't paid them, that's that. I don't know how I can possibly win. But Gerald kept saying to have faith and that he would try to use the judge's sympathy in my favor. Somehow Gerald was right. He talked about my past, my life, my medical history, and how the last 6 years have been the worst for me. He said that they hadn't gone through extra steps to ensure that I was receiving my letters and my dues. That the homeowner association had ample opportunity to talk to me and make sure that I knew what was going on. He said that it is also part of their responsibility to make sure that homeowners know about them when they are established. The biggest kicker is that I had never signed anything for the homeowner association. Somehow, I hadn't thought of that. Gerald did mention it a few weeks ago, but I told him I couldn't remember if I had. If they were established 5 years ago, that's when I was at my worst with my MS and wouldn't have known much. I could barely remember the first year of my MS diagnosis. The judge was sympathetic. They admitted that the line between legal and right was a fuzzy one with this particular issue, but that they felt that doing the right thing here was better than doing the legal thing. The homeowner association and investment company were pissed. The homeowner association far more than the investment company though. They continued to argue and said that they at least wanted me to pay their thousands of dollars of legal fees. The judge laughed and said that they were gouging me and dismissed their claims again. The one unfortunate thing is that I do have to pay back the $19,000 that my house was sold to the investment company for. Which really stings. It was almost like paying for the home all over again, but hey, it's well worth being back in my own house. Well, for now at least. I'm going to sell the house for way more than $19,000 and move. I don't want to be part of this homeowner association anymore. Paying them their stupid dues is not worth the hassle. But for now, I have my home, until I find the next one. With no homeowner association, the next story is titled, "Yell at Us for Parking in a Reserved Space? Get Arrested and Evicted." TLDR. People yelled at us for parking in a reserved space that really didn't exist. Ended up getting arrested and evicted for smoking crack in the condo. Disclaimer. Unit 8 was rented by Rick and Tara, not owned. Last winter, around January, me, my family, and close friends were staying at our condo in Vermont for New Year's to celebrate, ski, etc. My dad owns the 8-unit complex our condo is in, and all but one had people up for the holidays. There's a decent amount of area for parking, but when there's a lot of people all there at once, it can get tight. So, one night after returning from the mountain, we parked in the spot closest to the stairs to unload everything easier. Our parking lot isn't one with actual spots or anything because it's just gravel and dirt, so it's really just eyed out and first come, first serve. A few hours later, my brother went to the car to get something from the car where there was a cardboard sign left on the car. The sign read "Reserved Parking for Unit 8. Handicapped," on both sides. And yes, they forget the N in handicapped on both sides as well. Like I said, there's no specific spots for anyone. Unit 8 was one of the smaller units on the ground level, about half the size of the rest. The couple that rented there was sketchy to say the least. They had to be in their mid-20s, but we never saw them much, and didn't know too much about them. Let's just call them Rick and Tara. Another 20 minutes later and I go down to the car to get some forgotten gloves. As I unlock the car, the lights alert them someone's at the car, and through the window Rick starts yelling at me telling me I have to move the car by the morning, or they'd have it towed. At this point, I can also realize that Rick is off of something, so I subsequently ignore him, grab my things, and head back up. I get into the condo and explain to my dad the experience I just had with Rick. At this point he'd had enough and decided he was gonna go down there himself to handle things himself. So, he goes down there to talk to him. My dad was really the only person that had met them before, but it was briefly during the leasing of their unit. He knocks on the door and it's about 30 seconds until Rick angrily answers the door. He crankily asks, "What do you want?" And my dad politely explains that no spots are reserved and that it is first come, first serve. Rick instantly starts freaking out, saying that it's a handicapped spot and that they're gonna call the landlord. They had little experience with my dad when they leased the place about a year before, and in that time, he was diagnosed with cancer and lost a lot of weight. With that, his appearance changed drastically. Rick didn't realize he was speaking to the landlord and kept his rant going. As my dad was going to lay it out for him, he noticed on a table in the living area that there was a pipe of sorts. Paired with the behavior and appearance of Rick at the time, my dad concluded it was a pipe of sorts for drugs. He backpedaled out of the conversation and returned back up to our condo. When he got back in, he called the cops explaining the situation and what he saw. 30 minutes later, cops pull up and start talking to Rick. Going off what my dad told them about the pipe, one of the cops noticed it, but this time out in the open with a bag next to it. At that point it was revealed that they were smoking crack and they were both arrested. Along with that, my dad also evicted them from the property for violating terms, obviously. We ended up renovating the whole place afterwards because who knows how long they'd been smoking that inside. The upside is that the cardboard sign still hangs in the living room and gives us a laugh each time we pass. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up. Yes, I agree, the more climactic, no Rick. I am your landlord. Followed by a ski pole lightsaber duel would have been cooler. A lot cooler. Edit 2. I see a lot of fuss over the handicapped spot, and let me confirm that neither Rick nor Tara had any disability or handicap. And sorry for the shitty spelling, but throughout the story I meant to be saying they were renters, not buyers. Also see a bunch of you quite mad about how we handled things. If you're a landlord and someone's smoking crack in the unit you're renting out to them, then most likely you're going to have them removed. I feel for the addicts that have corrected themselves, and I hope the best for Rick and Tara. Also, they're not locked up, they were in for an overnight, so please save my inbox the horrors. The next story is titled, New Landlord Wants to Terminate My Year Lease. Maine. I rent an office space in a commercial building. My first year-long lease was up in February, when I signed on again for another year. It's up February 2022. When I signed on for another year, I had no idea that the building was on the market. I was in the dark until last week, when I received an email from the new landlords, introducing themselves, encouraging me to vacate within 2 months, and informing me that they would be sending over a new month-to-month lease for me to sign. They said they were planning to convert the building into a family residence and move in, which seems crazy, but whatever. There is nothing in my current lease saying that the terms change upon sale of the building. It's pretty standard boilerplate, so, I don't think they can just waltz in and throw me out. Regardless, I definitely don't want to occupy space where I'm not welcome. So, I wrote back, congratulated them on the purchase, and said, I have a proposal that might make life a little easier for you. If you'll cover the cost of moving me out of the space, I will need some muscle to get the furniture out. I can be out by the end of the month. It should only cost about $300 to move out. They thought that was funny and declined the offer. My response was to ask her if she was expecting me to both willfully terminate my rights and suck up the unexpected and unwelcome cost of moving out. I also pointed out that I'm under no obligation to sign a new lease. I also told her that it's common practice for landlords to buy tenants out of their lease, and that I thought my offer was more than fair. They responded by saying that they would consult with a lawyer. The following day, they informed me that there was a death in the family, that they were out of state now, and wouldn't be dealing with any of this for several weeks. There's only about a week left in this month. I have made arrangements to clear out next week. I am at a loss as to what to do next. Legally, is there anything I'm not understanding? Have I done the correct things? What is the next right step? Update. We came to an agreement. I sent her an email letting her know that, since she was unable to negotiate with me for a few weeks, I would continue to honor the lease I signed and would be sending her June's rent, but that I will request that money be returned as one condition of my release. Alternately, my original offer still stands. I'm willing to accommodate her immediately, for the cost I would incur doing so. My sense is that she's not a malicious person. She just breezed in with a blithe sense of entitlement and naivete. So, I made another appeal to reason, explaining that the lease is a two-way street, meant to protect both landlord and tenant. It's not a power-over arrangement. I reiterated that she was getting a great offer from someone whose rights she was seeking to terminate. She responded swiftly and agreed to my offer. I gave the green light to my mover, who had me out of there in a snap. I sent her pictures of the clean space and left her the keys. She paid the mover, sent me my deposit and returned my rent check. Done and done. Thank you, everyone, for the great advice. The last story is titled, New Neighbor's Cat Comes Into Our Yard, Nearly Gets Caught by My Dog. Am I liable if he finally catches it? Washington. New neighbors moved in a couple weeks ago with a cat. Our yards are separated by a chain link fence and my dog has free range of the whole yard. This morning the cat was roaming around in our yard and my wife let the dog out without noticing the cat walking around our grass. The dog bolted at the cat and the cat nearly escaped. My wife said the cat's tail was inches from my dog's jaws. My dog is only a year old and will chase at anything smaller than him like a squirrel but is not aggressive towards people or other dogs, but this is his first encounter with a cat. I haven't spoken with the neighbors yet, nor have I talked to my landlord about it since this happened this morning. Am I liable if my dog injures the cat in my yard? What's the best way to approach the neighbors? Should I inform my landlord? Update. Called animal control and they said I am not liable if the cat is injured on my property. Thanks for the advice. Thanks for listening.